Okay, so here's Jordan Peterson. He's sitting down with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, of course, is the fact-based dude from what's his organization?
Turning Points USA.
Turning Points USA.
Toilet Paper USA.
These are the guys who literally fund student government races with right-wing money so that they can influence campus politics. Because, it's not about collectivism, right? You want the individual to work. That's why right-wing organizations fund student government elections. Never mind. But nevertheless, we're not here at this moment to discuss that now. They sat down, and this is Jordan Peterson, Charlie Kirk, just sort of throwing around different ideas that they have about black people.
The Democrat Party receives 96 to 97% of all black voters in America, despite the Democrat policies having the worst impact on the black community. And so Candace is trying to wake up that community, and so we're happy to have her as our communications director and help enhance her vision to try to at least get people to think differently. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Warren Farrell later today, and he just wrote a book called The Boy Crisis, and in there he talks a fair bit about the pernicious effect of fatherlessness, and that's something that I'm very interested in. In Ontario, we have, as part of standard political policy, that all families are equal, and the idea there is that respect should be given to familial units regardless of their structure. And there's something to be said for that, because people have to struggle through life the best they can, whether they're single parents or regardless of how they put their family together. But the empirical data on the catastrophe of fatherlessness is extraordinarily solid and deep.
Pause it now. So let me just give you a sense of what's going on here rhetorically. I will concede that he's saying in terms of households with a single parent, I will concede that it's, no one signs up for this, and that, we have to deal with life as it comes to it, and we should probably show respect for that. And now that I have said that qualifier, I'm going to actually undermine that first statement by saying that there is no respect for it, and that there's something pathological about it, and that that even though life may throw things at us, there's something fundamentally wrong with the people who are on the receiving end of it. That's basically the rhetorical trick that he's just played there. Good.
The catastrophe of fatherlessness is extraordinarily solid and deep, and it seems to be something, in principle, that's a particular plague for the black community.
That's correct.
And I guess I'm wondering, too, with the conservative approach to that,
seems to be, in principle, a plague for the black community. I just want to flag that comment as we go forward.
I guess I'm wondering too, with the conservative approach to that, have you guys focused on the problems of fatherlessness, and what's your take on that?
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, if I had to pinpoint one societal trend that has harmed the black community the most, it would be the rise of single motherhood in the U.S. So to give a number, just to so people understand.
Pause it. I just also want to think about the one trend that has harmed black people the most. I can think of a lot of things.
It's like an over-determined question.
But
imprisonment, mass incarceration, policing, slavery, redlining, housing discrimination, environmental pollution, environmental racism.
No ability to build any intergenerational wealth.
And then when LBJ signed that law that said, black fathers can't be there around their kids.
Yeah, LBJ was like, I'll give you civil rights, but as a good liberal, I want to make sure that you have matriarchal homes.
So people understand, the single motherhood rate in the 1960s was about 18% in the black community. Mm-hmm. Now it's 77%. Mm-hmm. 77% of U.S. blacks will grow up never knowing their father.
Pause it. Now Charlie Kirk probably doesn't understand this concept, but you can have a single parent home, and that does not mean that you don't know the other parent. I don't know the specifics, but that does not mean that you don't know the other parent. In addition, we have mass incarceration rates that also, I think, coincidentally, during that time, skyrocketed.
Someone just sent me this CDC report from 2013 that says black fathers have the most involvement in their kids' lives by various measures.
Black fathers do. That does not necessarily mean that the percentage of families that have fathers there. Now, the number that he's talking about comes from some Dallas, Texas. Where was that, Brendan? Dallas, Texas police commissioner who had misstated the facts anyways. So this is a misinterpretation of an incorrect fact. Continue.
77% of U.S. blacks will grow up never knowing their father.
That's not true.
There's no rational argument that that is healthy for a society. And the reason for that...
Oh, there's an article in the Atlantic Monthly just 2 weeks ago showing that, which is notable, right? Because it's not like the Atlantic is a right-leaning magazine.
Anything but.
yeah. And, I mean, they can be even-handed when they're at their best. And they reviewed the new evidence that was presented in this research paper, which I also read, showing that if you look at those few locales where poor black people and poor white people do approximately as well, if you track them over a reasonable amount of time, the thing that characterizes the high-functioning poorer places is the presence of fathers.
That's exactly right.
And they said that not only, the researchers claimed that not only was that good in the immediate family, so to have your father around, but in neighborhoods where having fathers around is the norm, every boy in particular does better in the neighborhoods.
That's right.
Now, there's also this concept of causality and correlation. Now, I could come up
Marxist.
with which is obviously a radical leftist perspective, collectivist perspective, but I can come up with a lot of reasons in a neighborhood where if there is a higher incidence of absence of fathers, and I mean this is presuming, of course, you control for both these factors, right? Where there's a white community or a predominantly white community and a predominantly black community living in the same type of poverty. But I would also suggest that maybe the type of policing that happens in those neighborhoods could also have an impact, or perhaps the rates of incarceration in that neighborhood, or that once you get out of that neighborhood and track through life, that your blackness follows you a little bit further than your whiteness.
Where is his chapter title focusing on Eric Garner if he's so concerned about this? That was an entrepreneurial man who was murdered and taken away from his family. But also in addition to that's just more
selling individual cigarettes.
Selling individual cigarettes. He's a hero. But also the other part that's just so ridiculous about it is it's like the research on the opposite end where people will point to, certain numbers continuing in context where there's greater black wealth as an example. Same principle applied. Like black wealth is entirely different because of intergenerational wealth destruction. So if one family is earning higher, the potential obligation to a much broader family network that has been reduced wealth-wise.
That's right.
So it's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess but we have to do this, even though it's obvious, because this guy is the rage of the moment.
Well, the point is, you can pull out one factoid, you can get it wrong, and then build an entire reverse engineer it back into a very old trope, and that's the name. That should really be the name of his memoir.
That should be the name of his memoir. And also, by the way, I mean, that's the oldest right-wing trick in the book. First we create a crisis, whether it's gender, class, race, where people are marginalized, abused, all the rest of it. And then there's results of that. And then we take the results and we go, see, exactly, that's why it is.
Right.